prison, it's difficult for him to find time to answer them all. Some of these young people are in juvenile lockups, and some of them are the children of prison guards who see their fathers bringing the violence of prison home with them. Yet true to his vows, Jarvis tries to say something to each of them that will make a difference in their lives. Once, when I was visiting him at San Quentin, Jarvis told me that something was troubling him. He knew that his personal story, with all its confusion, violence, and pain, is all too common. As he put it, whether you ask a prison guard, an inmate, or a person on the street, they'll all agree that such a life is that of a man who is likely to end up just where I have, on death row, waiting to be killed by lethal injection. So how, he asked me, will anyone believe I'm innocent? It seems, in fact, that his innocence is a miracle, a very fortunate miracle. At the age of 19, when Jarvis was rightly sent to San Quentin for a series of robberies, he was angry, defensive, and mean. His childhood, as you will read in these pages, had trained him to violence and abuse. So it was by luck that he never killed anyone, and that, auspiciously for him, he never would. But it was only partly by luck. This book also tells the story of a child who managed to keep alive a small flame of compassion for himself and others, thanks to the essential wholeness of his nature and the acts of kindness he experienced along the way. That Jarvis's Dickensian childhood included some people who loved him made an enormous difference. There was in this violent young man an aversion, deeply buried but still present, to killing. As you will read here, as a boy, Jarvis threw away a box cutter because there was no way he could ever see himself using it to harm anyone. And as a young man, Jarvis never actually aimed and shot his gun at another human being, even while inexcusably committing armed robberies that terrified many people. 4 years after Jarvis entered prison, a gang conspiracy resulted in the senseless murder of a prison guard. Jarvis easily could have been part of that conspiracy, yet for some reason, he wasn't included in the planning and execution of the crime. Nevertheless, because of testimony that has since been shown to be false, he was convicted of participating in the planning and of sharpening the weapon that was used to stab the guard, and he was sentenced to death. Jarvis says today that even if he is killed by lethal injection, he'll die with a clear conscience, knowing that he was not responsible for the death of a good man. As he puts it, I know my own truth, that I am totally innocent of the death of any prison guard. The irony of this, as Jarvis well knows, is that his life turned around only after his conviction. If he had been released from San Quentin at the end of his original term, it is possible that he might have remained as sullen and rebellious as he was when he came in. The odds are very good that he would have been dead on the streets well before he reached the age of 30. Instead, during his murder trial, 2 important things happened. First, Jarvis started wanting to know who he was and where he'd gone wrong. And at the same time, a private investigator working on his case taught him how to meditate and gave him tools to look at himself honestly and face his pain. Since that time, Jarvis has dedicated his life to nonviolence and benefiting others. These have been years of deep contemplation and discovery, years that have transformed him at the core. This powerful book is in some way a fruition of those years. It is as intimate a look at an at-risk childhood as you'll ever get. For Jarvis, writing about his early years was a descent into places that he'd repressed and been afraid to explore. It took him years of self-reflection to reach the point where he had the courage to go back into the painful as well as happy memories of his earliest life and to see with total honesty each of the times when he had lost touch with his basic intelligence and kindness and then taken a wrong turn. It is a riveting story, told with tremendous heart, yet totally devoid of sentimentality. I know it will be an eye-opener for all who read it. It is my sincere aspiration that this story will, against all odds, have a happy ending.